We're here to talk about week 4 of the high school football season. Seems like it's blowing right by.
Yes, it has. Certainly last week was the longest week we've had so far because of unforeseen circumstances with the weather. I mean, obviously the weather blew through and really kind of jostled the schedules of high school and college games in the region. So much so, you know, as we know, the North Carolina A&T East Carolina game got moved to a whole nother day, and I think a couple other games nationwide had that issue. But certainly week 3 ended up being a long night. I don't believe anybody started on time, but most people got going 8:15, 8:30 range. Right. So we did get all the games in, but it certainly made for a long night to make sure to get all the stuff in the paper and online and ready for you guys to look at it and see kind of how last Friday transpired. I mean, what a week, though. I mean, you had some really crazy games. I was blessed to be at the Clover Huss game, and that game could have gone either way.
Certainly.
Huss had to feel fortunate they won. I'm sure Clover feels like they missed an opportunity to win the game. Both of them, their second touchdown that forced overtime was kind of, you know, Clover offense and Huss's defense kind of were the proactive antagonist in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Gabe Carroll threw probably an ill-timed pass. Prince Beema did what Prince Beema does. He picked it off and scored to give them a 14-7 lead. Then later, on 4th and long, I believe 4th and 10, Huss had Carroll pretty well sacked, but he extended the play, and that caused all sorts of problems for Huss's defense, and he was able to kind of pick his receiver, and Blackman Huckabee was right up in the middle of the end zone, and that ended up forcing, obviously, the extra points. And in fact, I remember, for Clover's sake, I remember the holder, number 22, had a terrific hold just to get the kick up and get the game to overtime, and then in the overtime, Dontavius Nash show. He makes a big catch on 3rd and 18 after Zoe Wallace made a sack escape, and then he intercepts a pass in the end zone to end the game in Huss's favor. And after losing last year 42-41 in that overtime thriller down at Clover, I'm sure Huss feels like, well, it's right that these two teams are going to have played 2 games, 2 full games, and an extra overtime period and go 1-1. And that's about right. Those teams seem really evenly matched, and you know, it's I'll say this: I don't know where the talks are and the negotiations, but I certainly hope that rivalry would continue moving forward, because it seems really good for the area, and the kids seem to really enjoy it. There was a lot of hard hits, a lot of entertainment, and you know, Clover just coming up here. I mean, I don't know how they work it out on their schedule, but I think this is the second year that Clover has played a 4-game North Carolina Gaston County schedule. I've heard nothing but positives about it. I mean, the kids up here love it, and I think the kids in South Carolina enjoy it. I mean, it's been a really neat situation, and as we know, Clover has historically played a bunch of teams from the old North State, just a tad north of them, but 4 games in a year, these last 2 years have been the most that's ever happened.
What was something that you learned, of course, aside from the Clover Huss game? What did you kind of take from week 3? What was kind of your biggest impression?
Well, and we were talking about it a little bit before the show. Highland Tech, new coach, new attitude, 51-0. I believe it's like the 3rd shutout in the history of the school. Now they go to Lake Norman Charter this week. I'm really fascinated to see how that works, because I do think that 1A league is a really sound and solid 1A league, and I think they look at this is a year with, I believe, a 17-man senior class as an opportunity to kind of leave behind a bit of a legacy. They've only won 1 conference game in the history of the school. They had some good years when they were an independent and not in a conference, but you know, obviously Highland Tech, not necessarily geared to be a football program with the way that the academic dynamic of that school and the late notice that kids get when they're accepted into the school. But you know, I was pleasantly surprised and pleased, happy for them that they won their first game. And then, you know, the other thing that probably we're following too, looking in Gastonia, I felt a year ago when Brian Anders got it at Ashbrook that change was coming, and that the Green Wave would kind of be getting back their footing. That may be coming sooner than we thought. And again, this week's a big chance to make a statement. They go into the conference opener. They did win their conference opener last year and ended up being 4-8, but there's a different feel to this year.
Right, and we'll talk about that one a little bit later on. One of the things that I kind of took from last week, of course, although Forestview gave up 46 points, their defense is better than advertised. That was not your typical 46-point beatdown or a 26-point beatdown that was given by South Point. Their defense actually hung in there, and aside from the Ray Greer show, it really kind of hung in there, and I think they're actually better than people advertise and give them credit
And
for.
To your point, Joe, and I think I said some of the same things a week ago at the Clover game, it's going to be fascinating how Chris Medlin and his staff can kind of keep that team confident. because it's going to be easy to kind of tuck your tail and say, we're doing all these right things, and I think they played decent, even though a 35-3 loss to Clover the week before. You'll see a reward down the road. Because when you give up 35 and 46 to two teams that border your school, it's really hard to think, hey, what are we getting with the reward? But I'm with you. I feel like Forestview has a pretty good defense, and the statistics may not show that. But if those kids can stay healthy, stay together, and keep working, I think you'll get a chance to see them, and that could be as soon as this week with the Ashbrook game.
Right, and two of those Ray Greer touchdowns came on 2nd and long, and then right after a fumble that came shortly after a South Point fumble near the goal line. So Medlin really felt like if those two things would have happened their way, the game might not have gotten away like it did. But of course, those are two things from week 3 that we kind of looked at. But you also had 3 guys that went for 200 yards.
Yes.
The 2 Tyrese's, one from Ashbrook, Tyrese Nicholas, Stuart Kramer's Tyrese Morris, and of course we've said this guy's name a bunch this year already. Mountain Island Charters, Elijah Burris. Which one kind of impressed you the most with their performance?
Boy, it's a tough call. I would probably err on the side of Nicholas because I feel like, and you and I saw East Lincoln's defense against Stuart Kramer.
Yeah.
And it's been fascinating to watch East Lincoln struggle as much as they have playing other teams, but I think their defense is pretty sound. Don't know so much about Graham. Obviously, East Gaston has had some struggles, so I would err on the side of Tyrese Nicholas, but it really doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're throwing up 200-plus yards, that's a good day for a running back, and it certainly appears that at the end of the season, we're going to have quite a chore to determine the first-team All-Gazette running back positions because these 3 guys are not going away, and there's a bunch of other folks out there that are running for big yards as well. But these 3 guys seem to be kind of putting their names at the head of the class, at least at this juncture of the season after 3 weeks.
Right, Nicholas with 2 60-yard runs to kind of put that game on ice against East Lincoln last week. You had Morris with 4 touchdowns. He's been running hard. I think this is his 3rd straight game with over 100 yards, and same goes for Elijah Burris. Yeah, it's going to be real tough. And as you said, those 3 guys have shown that they are consistent. Speaking of those 3 players that we just talked about, Morris, Burris, and Nicholas, all 3 of those guys are part of our Week 3 Player of the Week honors, and you can actually vote for those guys whether you go to GastonGazette.com or ShelbyStar.com for the Cleveland County guys. You can do that until sometime tomorrow morning, and we'll have a winner for you sometime tomorrow afternoon. So get your votes in, and let's see how those things land.
Because be a part of the process. Yeah.
Certainly, all those guys are very much deserving of that, along with several other guys that were nominated by us and coaches as well.
Well, the thing that I find fascinating about Joe is that obviously we at the Gazette have done Players of the Week for a good many years, and it's always hard. Because, and I think fans take this personal. We're not saying if your kid doesn't get it, then you have a great week. Right. It's really remarkable. Week to week, 10, 12, 15 kids are certainly worthy of winning this, and obviously 2 are going to get picked. Mm-hmm. And we're happy to let you fans have a heavy vote in one of them, and then the second one we kind of pick as a staff, and your votes do count, are part of that metric. So,
right.
But it is really amazing, and we're glad and so happy that you guys have taken the time and effort to get involved and make your opinions known.
Of course, you'll get the opportunity to pick against us experts. Again, GastonGazette.com, ShelbyStar.com. Be on the lookout for our Pick 'em contest article that comes out each week. Pick with us, see how you fare. You'll probably do better than me, but at least we're going to have a little fun with it. Speaking of fun, let's delve into week 4. What game are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to a bunch of them, but I'm going to have the good fortune to go to Ashbrook or Forestview, where we got to make a note of this. Ken Beatty Court, they're going to announce that. Obviously a basketball coach and a golf coach, but a lot of his former players are going to be there. Some of his former golfers, I think, are going to be there. I believe Athletic Director Alan Stewart said there's going to be a pregame meet and greet at the entrance, and then after the first quarter, they're going to have an official announcement of what that looks like. So, obviously a big night for Forestview. And, Ken Beatty, before he went to Forestview, coached at Holbrook Junior High, which a lot of those guys went to Ashbrook. So I think this game was picked on purpose because I think there's probably the thought that Coach Beatty, a lot of his students, the parents he coached when they were at Holbrook and went on to Ashbrook. So, big night over there. And then, like I said, as someone who grew up in Bowling Springs, the Shelby Crest game, there's no bigger game than that every year. So, you know, and then you look at around the other games in the area, you know, chances for teams to make a statement. I mean, Burns, are they for real after beating Shelby? They go to East Rutherford. Tough game for them. Cuthbert's in at Kings Mountain. Kings Mountain should take care of that, but they know they've got Shelby coming up next week. It'll be easy for them to be looking ahead, but Cuthbert's a challenging team. You know, that'll be tough for them. I mean, you know, Huss at Hickory. Hickory surprised the world a little bit last year by coming down here and beating Hunter Huss. Huss, will they be flat after that emotional, physical, draining, long game that ended, you know, 11-15 at night against Clover last week? I mean, you know, it's a challenging game. And then, you know, Lincoln is East Gaston. East Gaston needs to kind of get off the schneid. Lincoln is looking to get off the schneid. I mean, two teams that are desperate to get a win. So, you know, there's all kinds of good games there. And I mentioned earlier Highland Tech and Lake Norman Charter. Curious to see what Highland Tech can do coming off that big win to start the David DeLeo era.
Right. Of course, I'm looking forward to the game I'm going to, South Point Clover. First trip over there, at least on here at the Gazette. Clover trying to get off the mat. They've shown that they can move the football. The problem is, can they, when they need to be secure with the ball, can they do it? And I think that kind of hurt them last week. 4 turnovers really told the tale.
And I also think they're trying to find the balance between, they want to throw it because they've got all these great receivers, but they've got real good talent back there in the backfield and Hall.
Yes.
And it'll be interesting to see moving forward how they try to, do they make it a 50-50 balance? Is it more run, more pass? And that's what these games are for, because obviously, as much fun as we're talking about the Gaston County games with Clover, their real enchilada comes up when they get in region play, which is in 5A, and it's, you know, as challenging a region as there is in the state, even though the records right now aren't so spectacular. I think Clover's got the best record of the bunch, and there's a couple of teams that have got losing records.
Yeah, Northwestern struggling. They get my alma mater this week in Ridgeview High School in Columbia. You have Rock Hill, who beat South Point, the other South Point, a few weeks ago, lost this past week to Chester. You have Fort Mill, who's struggling. Nation Ford, they can throw the ball all around the lot. It's that whole region right there is a crapshoot, but Clover should have a say in it. And honestly, this is going to be kind of an outlier compared to what they probably will see in region play, because South Point and his red bone offense contrast with the air raid of Northwestern. It's probably much different than what they will see.
Well, and speaking of South Point, and we'll close it with this because you're going to that game. You saw them last week. I saw them the first week. There was an awful lot of concern and worry about Keaton Hale. Could Jamani Leeper switch from wingback to quarterback? It sounds like Hale not as seriously hurt as originally thought. Certainly a sprained knee, nothing to be joking about or not worry about. But looked like South Point kind of found their footing a little bit last week.
Yeah, Leeper really has settled in and really shown a lot of confidence. Hale dressed out last week. He looked to be moving better than probably what you would think he would with a sprained knee. So it'll be interesting to see whether he comes out and plays this week. I'm also interested to see how Clover really reacts to that red bone, and whether, if it comes down to third and long, second and long opportunities, are they just going to be able to defend Ray Greer, who is a matchup nightmare? His size, his speed, it's going to be tough for anybody to really defend. Will they be able to do that if the opportunity warrants?
Yeah, well, that's this week. As we look into week 4, we'll be back again next week. Always glad to have you guys joining us, and keep the votes coming on GastonGazette.com and ShelbyStar.com for Players of the Week. We look forward to getting your feedback.